Okay, so good afternoon everyone. This is Olivia. Sitting next to me I've got Karen, who's our other radio.
Good afternoon everyone. This is Karen, one of the other ADRs on the help desk normally.
Yeah.
So good afternoon everyone.
Yeah, a lot of you have probably spoken to Karen. Lots of help with the standards check. So our most frequently asked question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Has been for the last year or probably longer than that actually. So we're here this afternoon just to have a chat about and to give you some information about the DVSA's driving test trials. So I've got a couple of questions that a couple of you kindly emailed in beforehand, which is very useful. We'll go through some questions at the end. Do feel free to use your text box to ask your questions. We will answer them hopefully if we can, and if we can't then we'll go away and find out for you. So what I'm going to be doing is sharing some slides on the from the DVSA. They've kindly allowed us to use some of their slides. So we're gonna share those with you this afternoon. Okay, so hopefully now everyone can see the DVSA slide review of the practical test and why are we researching changes to the practical test. I mean, that is a good question. I mean, DVSA routinely review the content of the driving test anyway, but they do want to ensure that it reflects real-life driving so that new drivers are prepared as best as possible for driving on their own. So working with the driver training industry and other interested bodies, the DVSA have identified potential beneficial changes that reflect common driver behaviour. So the elements of the trial test have been designed to transfer more responsibility to the candidate, making them better equipped to drive alone and think for themselves on the road. And I'm sure that everyone will agree that this is actually a good move. It's a positive step because we do want people to become thinking drivers and not just, we're getting them through tests. And everyone here will hopefully agree with me with that. So if we just have a quick look at the next slide on there. So changes under consideration. Use of sat-navs. A lot of us have heard about the sat-navs. So they're going to look at using the sat-navs as part of the trial, as part of the independent driving part of the test, and increasing this from about 10 minutes to 20 minutes in duration. Forward parking into a bay, stopping on the right-hand side of the road, so the wrong side of the road if you like, with the option of reversing in a straight line. No longer including a reverse around a corner and turning the road exercise. So again, we can go into that in a bit more detail in a while. Tell me safety questions on the move. So there'll be one of these questions will be done when the car is stationary before it moves off. So obviously things like opening the bonnet, otherwise that will get quite interesting. A bit of common sense to apply here. But it'll be possibly things like, show me that your main beam lights are working, and if they do, the examiner's going to ask the candidate to do things like that, and the candidate, as a result of your expert training and guidance, they're going to then decide as to when will be a safe place to do it. Obviously things like that, again, common sense prevails. They're not going to be doing it along a busy high street where there's people around because it would be illegal and it would be unsafe and all the rest of it. So it might be down a slightly quieter road, but they just want to get the candidate to demonstrate that they can do this, because this is what we do on the move. This is what we do as drivers. Every single one of us has to do this type of thing. So, when the vision is poor, we can't always stop and pull over and then find out how to switch our main beam lights on. That's not reality. And that's the thing the DVSA are trying to do, that use this trial to close that gap between what the test currently is and reality. So a lot of it's a very positive move. So Next steps, the Transport Research Laboratory has been awarded the research contract. 20 driving test centres have been chosen, so a spread mix of rural and urban locations. The people who, the candidates that go for this test will be able to acquire an actual driving licence. This is not just a survey or anything like that. It is for licence acquisition, and it does meet all current regulations. So there are just a few changes within the current rules that the DVSA has been able to implement for the trial. So again, to summarise, so they approximately want about 3,000 candidates for the research, and I think they're looking at around 1,000 people to actually acquire a licence. They're going to drop the turn in the road and left reverse for this trial. Independent driving to increase to 20 minutes with directions from a sat-nav. One safety question to be asked on the move. Forward parking to obey any suitable location. So the forward parking to obey, again, this one you may or may not have heard. They're looking at partnering up with, certain car parks, or, it could be like a supermarket, could be like a council-owned one, but they're looking at partnering up so they don't put too much heavy emphasis on one particular provider for a car park, so otherwise they'd be a bit inundated. And they're going to be asking the candidate to drive forward into the parking bay, nose first, and it won't. They won't be able to say drive through an empty bay into the next bay, for example. It will be just driving forward into the first bay. So they need to get the car within the lines as in there, and then the examiner then will ask them to reverse out when safe. They won't be able to reverse, say, into a straight line into the bay. If there's a free bay opposite behind them, they will need to reverse to the left or to the right as if the car park is busy and all the bays are full, as you would do in reality. So the examiner is going to, then sort of look at their observation skills, their car control skills, and their decisions that they're making. So again, in reality, what do we all do when we pass a test? What do our friends and family do when they go out and they need to get some shopping? Often if you need to get a bootload of shopping into your car, then you often, unless the car park's designed in a certain way where you would be able to reverse in and have some sort of walkway for your trolley, not a lot of car parks are designed that way, and more often than not we have to end up driving forwards in. And I know I do, and I know Karen, you do.
Yeah,
next to me.
Yeah.
So reversing when you can, because it's obviously it's a lot easier, and there are other safety aspects of that. But in reality, it doesn't always happen. So they're looking at updating this part of the trial to reflect those changes.
So one thing maybe to mention on that is it's not necessarily how many times that person also goes forward and back. It's not necessarily, it's the safety aspect, how they perhaps perform that manoeuvre, not necessarily how many moves it takes them to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hopefully that's clarified that a little bit for you. Stopping on the right-hand side of the road, and again, this one has caused all sorts of,
a little bit of controversy on this one.
Raising of eyebrows. Did you want to?
I've had a few queries on this one already through the help desk of people being concerned about pulling up on the right-hand side. Of course, we don't want to necessarily encourage the parking on that side. That's not what it's about. In real-life situations, we do often have to pick people up, just briefly pause to pick somebody up, I don't know, to drop somebody off, that sort of scenario. So it is real life, and that's, again, what they're focusing on. They're not necessarily looking for you to park there. They're just seeing how you would handle that manoeuvre safely with an element of reversing to perhaps tidy it up a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so again, what we do, we're going to go into some really frequently asked questions in a minute and run through those with you about different things and perhaps you've thought of or not thought of. So just giving you a bit of an overview right at the moment. So as we've established, TRL, research contractor for that. And for those ADRs interested in participating, more details, as I say, will be given in due course. This PowerPoint was given to us, I think it was created sort of late January, early February. So from the DVSA, and they've circulated it to, you know, lots of people to say, you know, use this to put in out for your members and things. So how can you help? Identify candidates to take part in the research. You would need to make the bookings, I believe, on behalf of your pupils. Continue to train your candidates to the required standard, but also give them experience of driving independently using sat-nav. Now, this is a real crucial part, and I'm sure everyone we're talking to this afternoon wouldn't do this anyway. But so, for example, I as an ADI, I've had in the past, and I'm sure this will ring true with lots of you as well. As I know, I've spoken to Karen about it, and she's had the same thing as me. So I'm sure it's not just us, where I've had a pupil from another instructor, let's say, and they've maybe failed a test or two, either the relationship has broken down, or the instructor's moved on, or the pupil's moved on. Somehow, you know, you end up with a new pupil, and they failed a test for whatever reason. So and whilst talking to them, I'll say, you know, have you done your Bay Parks, and, you know, what have you done, and, you know, how much have you covered this? And it turns out through discussion that they've never been shown how to reverse into a parking bay. And I've asked why, and they said, well, because the test centre I used doesn't have a car park. Now, this is a really scary reality. You know, I'd like to think that it is a problem in its minority, but it is out there. And it is there is a minority where people are still possibly being trained to follow and just go around where that test centre area is. But the reality is, even these people in the trials, even if they're not going to be asked to do a turn in road and left reverse, we know that. But when they pass the test, what if they need to turn the car around? What if they've gone down a dead-end road? What if there's an obstruction up ahead and they need to turn around in some way? So we still have got to train this. It's absolutely imperative. I mean, even now, they're going to be asked to do one reversing exercise, but we don't know what it is. So we've still got to be able to do this. On the driving test trials, if the examiner, say, for example, wants to use the pullover on the right-hand side of the road and just reverse back up to 2 car lengths and then drive out when it's safe, again, it's a reality. It happens, and this is what drivers do. Think about delivery drivers and things like this. Pupils some of them may go off to be delivery drivers. I know the DVSA have consulted with the police and other similar organisations to make sure no laws are being broken here, because they are not parking. The pupils are not going to be asked to park and stay there. It's a quick pull up and then reverse back, no more than 2 car lengths, and then move on again when it's safe to do so. The examiners will, you know, make sure that it's not being done on roads which are you know, hugely busy. They're not going to be on the, you know, overly quiet side either. They're going to be sufficiently challenging to represent real life, but the examiner will choose somewhere suitable. If there, say, for example, wasn't anywhere suitable, then the examiner might ask them to do a different manoeuvre, which is part of the driving test trial. And again, that happens now, doesn't it, in reality?
Mm-hmm. It's just keeping it as real to life as possible, and just equipping everybody with those skills that they need in whatever shape or form once they've passed, really. So it's not always going to be everything's on the test, but we do need to make sure that our students are going out there equipped with everything still. So as Olivia says, it's still important to teach people those important life skills.
Of course it is, yeah. That's it. Otherwise we'd be doing them a huge disservice, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Because I've
had
that problem too, with people not having done certain things because a test centre doesn't perhaps have a dual carriageway, so they haven't gone beyond the speed limit. They maybe haven't chosen to do bay parking because they can't find somewhere to practice, or they simply choose not to. So those problems do happen, and for me personally, I wouldn't want anybody to go out there and not be able to do it. If it then happens in real life, they're going to struggle with that, and that doesn't sit comfortably with me.
No. So. It's then on your shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, we do have that responsibility to, you know, train people up accordingly. So yeah, that's it. Just on the subject of parking, Q Park, they're like a big car park, national car park chain, a bit like NCP, sort of up there with those guys. So Q Park, we've got sort of quite a long-standing relationship with these guys. And if you go to the DIA website, which is driving.org, and then type /parking, then you can read all about Q Park. You can download some guidance notes, a little booklet that they've produced with our help, and lots of things, and also locations around the UK, certain locations for certain car parks in certain towns, where DIA members can go in to the car park, use the car park for bay parking, and then just show the attendant your DIA membership card on the way out, and they'll let you out for free. So, and plus you can also take advantage of up to 15% discount if you pre-book your parking online as a DIA member. So, you know, this is one of the many services available to you. I'm sorry, benefits, not service, because you're not having to opt into it. It's a benefit of your membership. It all comes part of your yearly payment. So do make use of that and go onto our website and have a little look at that, so you can you know, hopefully that will appeal to you. It is an ongoing battle, isn't it?
That's really good stuff. It's very difficult, because I have been into car parks where
have you ever been turfed out?
Yeah, I've been turfed, knocked on the window and turfed out, told off you go.
Yeah,
on your way.
I shouldn't laugh. But where else? You know, sometimes you choose a very quiet corner or somewhere, and you know, and that's it. You know, you're gonna.
Yeah.
Excuse me, can you please leave the car park? Okay, there's no one in here, but it's at night, but okay.
You have to be a bit careful, I think, sometimes, because I think there are restrictions on some car parks.
Absolutely, yeah.
You just need to read those signs and make sure that actually, I have been to car parks where it says no learners, and it does actually specify no practicing. So you do have to be mindful of those sort of things, and like anything in life, you just got to check it out and make sure that it's actually okay to do it.
Yeah, as Karen said, for goodness sake, read the signs. I mean, we have had lots of calls from members actually on that subject, where they've gone in there, just sat there for 10 minutes, you know, at the end of a lesson, maybe met the next person there, and then got a fine, got a nice ticket, so because I haven't read the signs properly. So, you know, just be careful.
Yeah.
With everything, you've got to read it. Okay, so reassuring candidates, they will be tested to the same standard, and they will receive a driving licence when they pass. So if you're interested in participating, this is the email address that you need to send your emails to. So test.research@dsa.gsi.gov.uk. Rolls off the tongue. It's a nice simple email address. I'm joking, sorry, saying that. Okay, it's just a long-winded email address, but okay. So, okay, we're coming on to the question part of it now. Let's just have a little look. Okay,
you're all listening but not asking any questions.
That's,
so that's
okay.
That's good. We're covering it then.
That's all right. So what we're going to do, you know, we're going to just go through a few of these bits. So some of the common questions are, what does the research involve? So the research into the trials will explore introducing changes to the test within the existing test slot. So extending the independent section of the test and the sat-navs, and asking candidates to follow directions via a sat-nav as an alternative to following road signs. Replacing a reverse round a corner turning the road with more realistic everyday manoeuvres, such as driving into reversing out of the parking bay, pulling up on the right before we join in the flow of traffic. On that note, it is a very, very good training point for us as ADIs to, when you're doing this at night, you might be training people at night to pull up on the wrong side of the road. Now think about the last time where you drove down the road, a main road or a road at night, someone is parked facing you on your side of the road, so effectively facing the wrong way, but they've got them dipped headlights on. Where are those lights shining? They're usually straight in your eyes. So again, this is an excellent training point for everyone here to say, yeah, dim your lights down, either side lights, parking lights, or turn your lights off. But again, you know, look at the highway code rules again when you're doing your training, just to refresh. You can't park at night unless it's in a designated parking bay. You've got things like problems with certain speed. If it's over 30 mile an hour, you've got to leave side lights on or parking lights on, and also it's, you know, traffic coming up behind a car which is facing the wrong way at night, which is unlit. You haven't got the reflectors on the front of the car like you do on the rear. So, you know, all of this is kind of, you know, we know all of this, but it's been, you know, more refreshed in our memories, if you like. So always good. The other things were, as I say, you know, asking the safety questions on the move instead of both of them at the start of the test. So, for example, requiring candidates to show how they would operate the rear heated windscreen while driving. Again, sometimes your car steams up, you need to put it on whilst you're on the move. So, okay, we've got a question coming. Let's have a little look on
somebody
this.
missed the first slide there.
First slide again. Okay.
I presume that was the DVSA one.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a little look. Just got to bring that back up. Bear with me. Not sure which you meant by the first slide, so I'm gonna put this one up. Was it that one?
Let us know if it was that one. Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. So I'll leave it on the screen for a moment. Another question: are they allowing more time for the new test, or will it be 40 minutes? Yeah, I think, you might have asked that question in fairness before I just went through what I've said. So what they're doing,
it's the same time. It's not changed. That will be the same time.
It will be within the existing test slot time. So
that's the one. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I'll leave it up there for another minute or so. So what's wrong with the current test? So although, you know, in the UK we have some of the safest roads in the world, you don't want to be complacent and want to make sure all new drivers have the best possible preparation for driving on their own. So the overall numbers of people who are killed or seriously injured on British roads have greatly reduced over the past 10 years. Accident rates are still high among newly qualified drivers. We know this. So we need to constantly change, and the DVSA constantly change ourselves to do things better and stimulate improved driver training, which should help reduce the cost of insurance as well. So again, it's risk management. That's, you know, that's essentially what it's coming back to. Risk is everywhere, but we can't eliminate it, but we can reduce it. So this is one of the many ways to do that.
I think in line with national standards as well.
Yeah.
It's very much trying to encourage people to make their own decisions, to be more independent when they go out to the real world, and to have a responsibility themselves to know what they need to be aware of when they're out on what is essentially our very busy roads these days. Yeah, absolutely. So again, just to pop the slideshow back on there. So again, when is the research taking place? So it will start in spring, so shortly, and will last up to 1 year. Where will it be taking place? So at 20 different driving test centres across the country, selected randomly other than reflecting a wide range of urban and rural road and traffic conditions. So they want to, you know, have a wide selection across the board. So could the proposed changes become part of the driving test? So currently the DVSA are undertaking this research. The results will then be evaluated before any recommendations are made. Any recommendations will be then subject to a full public consultation. And again, that's the usual process for anything like that. Let's have a look. What other questions do we have? How will the research be evaluated by the DVSA?
That's another one, isn't it?
Yeah. They will continue to evaluate it together with the independent researchers. So there's lots of research going on, and it will take a while, I guess, to get through those 1,000 passes that they require.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it will do. It says saying here, another question, what about test centres without rural roads, so, more urban? DVSA do recognise some test centres don't have the same variety of roads. So for those that currently struggle to access rural locations, then extending the independent driving section should open up more choice and variety of route, thereby reflecting more real-life driving conditions. So again, because the sat-nav will be the examiner's sat-nav and it will be pre-programmed to a destination, it will then, respond to traffic conditions in the area, things like that, as sat-navs do, and, it will take different routes, different times of day, depending on traffic conditions. So they're looking at the candidate's ability to, deal with the distraction of the sat-nav and how they best manage that. And also, anyone with any language barriers, things like that, they do have, with the sat-nav there is the visual direction side of it as well. But again, the examiners will deal with this section as they do now, as they do today. So if anything needs clarification, and that's what they'll do.
It's not something they can fail on their test. It's a bit like now when they're on the independent drive. If they go wrong, which of course students do, they can take an alternative route, or the examiner will redirect them. It doesn't mean to say that they're not going to pass that test. It just means they still need to stay safe and do everything legally. But as long as they can come back on track, or the examiner will bring them back on track, they will still pass that test. So it doesn't mean to say they're going to fail on that basis.
Absolutely. So again, only half of the candidates will take the existing test. So the question was, will all candidates involved in the research take the research test? So no, only half of the candidates will take the existing test, so they can be benchmarked against those taking the research test. And when will the ADI and candidate know which test the candidate is taking? Early on in the process, shortly after the ADI has nominated the candidate to the Transport Even Research Laboratory.
I think the people that are in the trials are getting lots of information, from what I understand, and there's a lot of clarity there when they do enter the trial phase. Is that your understanding of it as well, Olivia?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you do decide to sign up and join the trial, you will obviously be given lots of guidelines of what to follow and what to train, basically.
Yeah. And again, another question, can disabled learners or those with special needs be part of the research? Yes. The DVSA will encourage ADIs to include all pupils because, again, it's real life.
Yeah.
This is all about being real and real life.
And I think that includes automatic cars as well. So that's if you do have somebody on an automatic, you can also take them on the trial tests.
Yeah. Another good thing that they're going to do is the candidates will be monitored post-test once they've passed, and they will be sort of asked about any crashes that they've had or anything like that. So the DVSA are going through a monitoring process after the test as well, which is a vital part of the trials to see, has it worked? What bits worked and what research and what evidence is there to back this up.
Okay, we've got a question here. Let's just have a look. Okay, just bear with me a minute. Will it be only one show me, tell me question, or still two at the beginning of the move?
Right. So there'll be one question. Probably I don't know. There'll be one at the beginning. So
I guess one that walks around the car, the bonnet, or possibly the tyres, or
those sorts of things I would imagine are going to be done. One, there'll still be two show me, tell me, still the same questions, and one will be done before the car moves off as usual. That bit doesn't change, but there will be ones like the demisters, like the headlights and certain things like that, which will be done on the move.
Okay. Another question here, can you explain the rationale for removing the turn in the road? Understand removing it, sorry, it's not easy to read.
Understand removing left reverse, but not sure about turning the road.
As I think this is a manoeuvre you do in real life, road closures,
Sure.
accidents, etc.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
What they're doing, again, they're looking at, again, this is just a trial. Again, it's nothing which, it's not gone through legislation, it's a trial. But what they're doing, they're looking at how they can modernise the test to fit in with more real life scenarios. So, and this is one way of doing it, because think about when you're out and about yourself, what do you do, or what do you see other people doing that might pose more of a risk? And you think, blimey, what do your pupils do once they've passed? They're all, a lot of them are going to go and get a sat nav, or have a car which has a sat nav. And so a lot of people now are not trained to use a sat nav. So therefore, what do? It's going to be a cause of a distraction. A lot of people will park on the right-hand side of the road in a parking bay, or where it's safe to do so, because there might not be anywhere else to park, and let's face it, people are lazy.
They may decide.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
We want to park close to where we want to go. That's a fact.
Closest. That's absolutely right. And that's not to say that they may reintroduce the turn in the road. It may be that they go back to doing that. But I think the important thing to remember is we still have to teach this manoeuvre. It is vital because, as you say, if there's an accident, we need to turn around. You still need to teach it. So perhaps it's best not to think about what we need to do for the test, but what's better is what do we still need people to be aware of. The test is just the end result.
Absolutely.
But really what we learn along the way is just as important. So really, not having the turn in the road in the test, for me, is irrelevant almost, because you still teach it and you still need to learn it.
Of course you do.
Even if the sat-nav takes you the wrong way, you might have to turn around anyway. So the real-life situation will come up on your lessons at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had that, didn't we, when we were up, was it last year or early this year? We
were in a dead-end road on the sat-nav,
Birmingham or somewhere like that. The sat-nav was just not coping with whatever, we program it to get to a destination, and it was we were going around in circles, and we're thinking, hang on a minute, we've seen this road before, and we were in an area unfamiliar to us before a training event one day, and I believe it was Birmingham. So and I don't know whether it was the high-rise buildings because we were in the city centre. Don't know what it was, but it's the first time I'd experienced a sat-nav freaking out on us, but it did. It freaked out.
It takes you somewhere wrong, it loses its reception.
And so, you just have to deal with that and just continue driving in a safe way, and how do you manage that? Well, either you can, continue following it if you think actually it's taking me a slightly different route, but it's going to get me there, so you drive safely according to the law and according to the conditions for that. Or the other option, pull over, check it, switch your engine off for a minute. Is it programmed correctly? Is it taking me via Donna Groats? What's it doing? So.
And somebody's mentioned here, one of the reasons they're perhaps considering not doing the left reverse and the turn in road is that they are done in side roads, and this often means that you're not covering some of the busier roads, not doing some of the more challenging things on the road. So it's, again, just another way of looking at where we can get more experience of people being out on these situations, rather than perhaps focusing a lot on the manoeuvres which are done in quieter areas and can take up a fair bit of time sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. Who provides the sat-nav? The examiner will supply the sat-nav, and ADIs obviously will need to supply sat-nav during training. The sat-nav that they're going to be using for the trials is the TomTom Go 50. I'm not familiar with this particular model, but I know we, the DIA, are looking at introducing sat-nav into our mail order shop. So do come to us first if there is, if you're looking to purchase something, we might be able to arrange a discount for you. I don't know anything further than that, but I know that this was discussed in our office fairly recently. So do make an inquiry with us, and we might be able to get you a nice deal. So
I think the other something else that people brought up on the help desk with the sat-navs, Olivia, as well, you mentioned is, why can we not bring our own sat-navs? Because people may be used to using that particular brand of sat-nav. It would take the examiner a bit too long to program those particular routes in, to get familiar with it. So on a time frame, that would be difficult. So they are obviously programming their own sat-navs so that they're ready on the day. with with as much much more ease that way.
Yeah. So another one is, how will the sat-nav be mounted on the screen? By the suction cup and positioned to the lower centre of the windscreen or to the candidate's requirements, within reason and the legalities of it. So what happens if it fails during the test? The examiner will revert to given directions or ask the candidate to follow signs. Yeah, so you've covered the one about the
the program routes.
You've done that one.
And they'll just, if it does fail, as Olivia says, they will just revert back to the normal way of following directions and signs.
Yeah.
And maybe even the candidate can pick it up for themselves at that point, which is even better.
Yeah.
But they will guide.
Yeah. I mean, the use of traffic signs during the independent driving section of the research test will still remain an option for the examiner. So it is important that candidates continue to be trained by you guys and girls to follow road signs, and this will be tested within the research as an alternative to using sat-navs. Another interesting one is about the speed shown on the sat-nav. Anyone out there has used the sat-nav? Sometimes the speed on your speedometer and the speed on the sat-nav are slightly at odds by a couple of miles an hour or something. The candidate will be encouraged to use the speedometer on the car reading as usual. So the sat-nav may give a slightly different reading, but only the car speedometer reading will be used. So don't worry about that.
One of the questions here, one of the comments we've got is also that the examiner, when they do use their sat-navs, they won't need to unplug anything in the car. So it doesn't require battery recharge at that point. They will be charged up sufficiently so that they can survive without being plugged in anywhere in the car.
Fantastic. We have Jim Whalen. Hello. James Whalen is one of our members. He's an ADI and he's one of our regional trainers for the Birmingham Wolverhampton area. So he's jumped on here this afternoon. I did ask him to, because he's actually been involved in the trial in his area, and he's come along to some of the meetings. So thanks for your comments there, Jim.
Thank you for that, because that's one I didn't know about. So that answers a question for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's have a little look. Looking at the forward parking into a bay, car park use. So again, reversing out the bay, no, you can't use an empty bay directly behind. I covered that one earlier. So the examiner will ask the candidate to choose either left or right reverse depending on factors such as one-way systems in the car parks, visibility, things like that. Let's have a little look. How many shunts are allowed for reversing out of a bay? DVSA say it's not about numbers, it's about the candidate's control, accuracy and observations. So if it took, say, 2 or 3 attempts, then okay, as long as it meets that criteria of being under control, accurate, and the observation then effective there as well.
I'm sure you've been in that situation as well, like me, where you've been on a test and somebody has shunted forward a little bit on a parallel, but they've done it beautifully. Apart from that, they're very observant, they've looked all around, clearly they know what's around them all the time. It's taken them a few goes to go back and forward and out, but they've passed. So I think it's going to be similar sort of frame, isn't it?
Yeah, again, it's, they're just making sure. I mean, if someone makes the observation's not effective, or they make a bit of a big deal of it, that kind of thing, then as long as those criteria are met, then okay. But if it's the observation isn't effective, and because as we know, when you're reversing out for parking spaces, you've got runaway trolleys, you've got runaway children, you've got people everywhere,
shopping.
I mean, I've been in a car park before. I reversed my car into a bay. I didn't need to go in a boot. It was literally popping into my local supermarket for a couple of bits. And there was a lady loading. She'd driven forward into the bay in front of me. And she had a trolley, but she was putting the stuff in the boot and trying to arrange it in a boot, and the car park was on a slight camber and also a slope, and the trolley started rolling away from her. And it actually started rolling towards my car, and I'd never moved so fast in my life. I sort of got out and put myself between the trolley and the car, So, but yeah, I mean, things like that. I mean, that's just part of one of my sort of crazy sides of me. I will look at things like the camera in the car
Yeah,
park
me
for
too.
that reason.
I do as well.
I'm the car that's parked in a mile down the road, because I'd rather walk that extra bit or park on my own without being, you've got to balance out with being far too remote, and then there's always like the personal danger side of things, especially at night. But I don't like parking where other people are.
It's those random trolleys. I agree with you.
Oh dear, yeah.
They do have a mind of their own.
People trying to get a trolley to the boot of their car between two parked cars. I've seen that. And I'm like, oh no. So I'll always park away. That's from a driver point of view. I'm sure everyone else is the same.
And I think people have lots of prangs generally in supermarkets, and it is a good thing to these real life situations, because I think there are lots of different mishaps that go on in car parks with bay parking, pulling out. So it's a really useful skill, I think, and I'm sure you'd all agree. I think it's a really good thing to have and to test people on, because they're much more aware.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. I mean, that's part of that's. Let's have a little look. One of our other questions was, what new manoeuvres can I ask for in the test? I think we've covered that. And another comment was, if you remove the turn in the road, you take away the proof of the new driver's ability to show hand-eye coordination, effective control of the car at low speed, steering, clutch control, etc. Again, this was a comment. I'm not going to say who it was. That's fine. That's all anonymous. But I tend to disagree to a point with that, because I totally understand where you're coming from with the hand-eye coordination, because say like turning the road, yes, it relies heavily on that, but other things do as well. I mean, think about, I'm actually sat here now looking out onto Croydon High Street, and I can see opposite, we've got a busy main road here, and there's a side road opposite, and I don't know if you can see the road on over there as well, Karen. There was like a white car just coming out there, and it's coming up a hill, so the driver's got to deal with the uphill, they've got to deal with bus lanes, cycle lanes, traffic busy going in each direction, and they're turning right. So that is hand-eye coordination as well.
Coordination can be lots of things, can't it?
Of course, it's not just hands,
no,
it's
eyes, vision.
Of course it is. So, there's lots of other aspects of someone's driving where you can get this thing, where you can develop that. And again, use of hand-eye coordination, again, it's going to be things like, driving across to the other side of the road, reversing back, and pulling away again. It could be, again, reversing out of a parking bay. Driving into a parking bay is often harder than reversing in some cases, because if you're parking between two cars and it's not overly wide bay, then you've got to make sure that you don't clip the other cars on the way in. It's sometimes reversing in, the car is far more manoeuvrable in reverse, isn't it?
I think as well, it's knowing, like all these things in driving, it's when it's safe and when it's convenient, and that goes for controls on the car as well.
Yeah.
When to put your headlights on, when to put your wipers on. You're not going to do that when you're having to deal with something that is a risky situation. It will wait a second or two until it's more convenient. So again, it's teaching people when's the best time. And it's better to do that with us professionals than out there on their own when they're struggling to find the controls later on.
Yeah.
So again, it's a very useful skill.
It's all about, again, what's reality. And as trainers, we need to continuously evolve our training and move with the times. But obviously, if it comes down to sort of breaking laws, then no, we can't be doing that, and DVSA are not going to condone that, neither are we, neither are you. So that's a very easy one to do. But when it comes to things that you can do legally, but might be deemed as slightly more of a risk or a distraction, then this is what people do. And this is where they're trying to just bridge the gap a bit.
And we can't get away from the fact as well that there are many people out there on the road that do illegal things and do risky things, and sometimes understanding that and knowing, by doing these more risky manoeuvres yourself in a more legal context, you get to know what the problems could be with other drivers and perhaps what to watch out for. But if you always keep to the book on everything and don't branch out into other areas, people can be a little bit naive when they get out on the road. So for me, I think it's really important that they are put into all situations where, should that happen, at least they kind of have an idea of where that person is going with that, and they can deal with the risk much better at that point.
Sure, absolutely. So everyone, we've covered quite a lot there. Hopefully it's answered some of your questions. So we haven't had any other questions come in at the moment. So if anyone's got anything else to add, then now's the time. So while you're thinking of anything else you'd finally like to add, I'm just going to go on and start winding down for today. So going on to things coming up, DIA things which are coming up. So if you pop onto our website, driving.org, if you look at the training page, so that's /training, course information, booking and future webinars. So these are some of the things we've got coming up. We've got the Drivers with Diverse Needs Training Day. Our first day is tomorrow, Walton-on-Thames, and we've also got a date in Manchester, and we booked in April, 17th, I want to say 17th of April, but all the dates and everything, there's lots of dates floating around, so forgive me, I can't remember them all off the top of my head. But if you go to our website on there, then you'll be able to see them. You can click on each, the event or the training course that you're interested in, and you can book yourself a place online as well, or you can give us a call. So we've got that, and we've also got some other dates for the autumn, which we are due to release in the next week or two. I believe it's Edinburgh, Portsmouth, Ipswich, maybe Bristol, I want to say, off the top of my head. So those locations as well for this course, because we've had a lot of demand for it, which is fantastic. We've got Sue Vernon, who's our member, ADI and occupational therapist. So she's fully qualified in all matters. She deals with rehabilitating drivers that have come back from war, who have maybe now amputees, or she also deals with learning needs to, with certain pupils and certain things like that. And she's the person over on Guernsey who works with the medical profession and assesses and rehabilitates drivers over there. And she's a very, very knowledgeable lady, so we're very, very proud to work with her in Surrey Drivability, which is her driving school. And we've got our first day tomorrow at Walton-on-Thames. So there are still a couple of tickets available. So if anyone's sort of thinking about it, it's an introduction day to people, to drivers with diverse needs. So it is an introduction day. It's going to cover lots of interesting things. Have a little look at our website, the website which is on there. If you want to download the agenda, have a little look. It's 10 till 4, so it's most of the day, but not, it's not crack of dawn start, and it's not a late finish. So hopefully you might be able to get some lessons still in around it. Parent Power. These are our free half-day road shows. This topic of event, I'm starting off in Sheffield, doing this next week on Tuesday with Karen and one of our local trainers, Helena. So this is all about that relationship with mum and dad, or the carer, or that three-way relationship. And it's all about that, what works, what doesn't work, sharing a bit of best practice and things like that. Might have some ideas for you as well. So, have a little book onto that if you're interested. As I say, that one's a free event. Our Drivers with Diverse Needs and our, our driver behaviour training days, they're generally about £79 for members, £89 for non. We've also got our DIA Spring Conference, which is about driving through the ages. So this is about looking at the life ages, driver ages and life stages of a person who holds a driving licence. So it isn't always about somebody, we can't always label a 55 or 50 or a 60-year person as an old person, because what's old, to you, what's old to that person. So it could be various life stages that they go through as well, and as we all do as drivers. So we are going to look at, to generalise young or novice drivers. We're going to look at the middle ages. We're also going to look at the older driver market as well. We've got some highly skilled and fantastic guest speakers, and the information is live on our website, and you can again look at the agenda on there, and you can get yourself a place booked. That's the 27th of April at Leicester Racecourse. We are only doing one of these. We're not taking all the way around because it's just one spring conference. The other days, all the other things on here are days and training days, which will be, you know, spread as far and wide as we can. Then we've got our driver training, behaviour training day with Sandra McDonald-Ames, who's running those days for us, and they are all about driver behaviour. You know, why do people do and behave the way they do when they're driving, you know, so there's so much to this really fascinating subject. And again, this is sort of a bit of an introduction day for those of you that want to learn a bit more about what makes people tick. So again, fantastic day. Hope you can come along to it. Have a little look on our website for some more information. I think that's it for the main things coming up, isn't
it is. Yeah. Definitely, if you're interested in spring conference, you can always call us on that one as well, and we'll book you on that conference on the telephone if you prefer to do it rather than online. We just got one question here about the trials. Can you still go on to the trials? Probably, Livia, if you perhaps that website, the email, if you email the DVSA, we've got that email for you, and basically you need to ask that question whether or not they are still taking people on in your area. So there we are, Olivia's got that, so it's test.research.
There you go. Yeah, so that's the email address that you would need to email and just ask them. Okay.
Yeah, we're not sure where the trials are exactly and how many places they've got left, but it's worth dropping them a line, really.
Absolutely, yeah. So, okay. So, if any
more questions? No.
Any more questions from anyone? No. Okay. So again, thank you everyone for attending for today. You know, we got the radio help desk, and we got then if you want to email us on anything like this, then it's training@driving.org, and our phone number is 0208 686 8010. This webinar's been recorded, so it will be available for you to listen to online, along with all the other recordings that we've done. So have a little look at that. And if you are in an RN about the diverse needs, drivers with diverse needs course, and we do have 3 recorded webinars in the members area of driving.org that I did with Sue during January and February. So we've got an introduction one, we've got one about the legalities around you know, licenses and what to look out for, and lots of things like that you may not thought about, and that would also apply to you know, anyone. You know, it doesn't have to be a driver with a diverse need, it could be absolutely anyone. So there's some information on there which you should find useful, and there's also one that she did specifically on older drivers, so and some interesting case studies and things on there. So, you know, have a little listen to those, and you've still got time to book, but we will need booking by, say, 5 o'clock today if you do want to do anything like that. Okay, so thanks everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.